During October and November of 2020, the lecture topic was on negativity, Pathwork Lecture 195. After 8 weeks of that, there was an extra week that had to be inserted because of the calendar. We have 4 weeks a year, and I have to compensate by putting a fifth week in periodically. Rather than continue on the subject of negativity, I decided to do something a bit different. So I featured an idea that never got a lecture of its own. There are a lot of ideas and concepts in Pathwork that are included in other lectures and not necessarily named. So if you read through the titles of the Pathwork lectures, there are 258 of them, you will see most of the concepts mentioned, sometimes many times, sometimes only once. But this one is not mentioned in a lecture title. And the short version is The Grain of Truth. Long version, Finding the Grain of Truth. Like a lot of other concepts in Pathwork, the phrase alone, finding the grain of truth, is enough sometimes. It's enough of a succinct soundbite to carry the meaning once you've had a little experience with it. So I'd like to talk a little bit about examples of finding the grain of truth. The idea is that it is not the truth so much that upsets or frightens or discourages us, but the negativity that it is wrapped around it. Meaning, if someone criticizes me, it is not the criticism itself that is a problem. It may be that I feel that my image in their eyes is being threatened. So in other words, they critique one aspect of me, but I think that this is, it's like the phrase is, those who live in glass houses should not throw stones. I feel that I'm living in a glass house. So all stones are threats to me, existential threats to me. So a criticism is not a criticism, it's a death sentence. And that's why we react to things so violently, is that they carry a lot more threat and meaning than the actual technical words do. So the invitation in this concept is to find the grain of truth, find what is true about it, and focus on that for a moment. It's astounding how that can calm you down when you realize that the grain of truth is something simple, straightforward, non-threatening, doesn't change much of anything if you adjust and meet it. In effect, accept, receive the grain of truth. Defending against truth takes a lot of energy and effort because truth is so powerful. So we can consume a great deal of our lives defending against things, when if we simply receive the truth, we could then slough off the exaggeration, the dramatization, the accusation, the attempt to manipulate using that grain of truth is actually less dangerous than the grain of truth is if it's received. Hope that made sense. So let me give you some examples. Movie example, because I'm a movie buff, is in the movie 2001, how the computer predicts that a part on the outside of the spaceship is going to fail. Now, cinematically, this is an excuse to do a spacewalk. 2001 was one of the first movies to exemplify what a real spacewalk would look like. So the astronauts walk outside, they get their cinema moment, and they bring the part in, and they test it on the bench, and they say, how we can't find anything wrong with the part. Now, a human being might become defensive and defend the decision, but Hal isn't a human being. He's a computer. He says, well, then what I would recommend is that you reinstall it and let it fail, because either I'm right or I'm wrong. He's not invested in what the answer is, and he's interested because he wants to know if he's wrong, he's got to change his algorithm for predicting failures. It would be educational, informational, positive for everyone for how to find out if his prediction was true or not. Even if it's subtle and it takes a long time, let it fail, and then I'll know what I was trying to say versus what happened. Human beings don't do that. We defend our territory. We believe that it's bigger than we realize. So if you criticize my appearance, I think you're criticizing my personality or my reputation or my stature in life, instead of you're trying to tell me that the colors don't match. A more poignant example would be, imagine back in your childhood, if when you tried to make a point, and children do try to make points, they make very valid points. Imagine at some point in your childhood when you were trying to make a very valid point, and yet you were filled with childish neuroses and childish fears and childish needs and desires. And so you were expressing it in a way that wasn't clean, wasn't clear. Imagine for a moment that someone who cared for you actually listened and helped you clean up the point you were making, was willing to hear it, and was willing to respond directly to the valid point you were making and not get distracted or sidetracked by the neediness or the immaturity or the extra things that you piled on top of it. Imagine how powerful it would be to be heard by someone in your imperfection. This is the gift we can give others, to listen to them and to not get attached to how they say it or even why they say it, but to listen to what they say and see if we can find a common ground, a commonality based on truth. It can feel like we're giving something up. We're giving up an advantage. We could use their immaturity, we could use their emotionality against them. Instead, if we choose to look at the truth, we are indicating a respect for the other person. And when we offer respect for the other, at some point we will get respect in return. The trick is we can't expect to get that immediately. We can't expect a quid pro quo. I listen to you, now you listen to me. That's not the point. The point is to develop intellectual, emotional, self-will muscles to be able to hold still and listen and look and explore, because sometimes the grain of truth has to be mined. We have to pull it out of the ground, reach in and drag it forward. Another example that I find is that I have a lot of judgments about some kinds of popular films, light romantic comedies. There's a type of entertainment I enjoy and a type of entertainment I tend not to enjoy. But what I have discovered over the last couple of decades is the value of the entertainment I didn't used to enjoy, so that I have made some inroads into that. I have found value in parts of life that I had completely dismissed as not having value. And I did that by using this principle, by considering that when 1 million people like something, there's something in it. Now, they may say there's a pound in it or a kilo in it, and there may just be a gram or an ounce, but that's not the point. A willingness to look and to see at things that have value to others has led me on a journey of discovery, so that I realized there's more to common knowledge than I had given credit to. I'm a bit of a snob. I think that I know better than others sometimes, a lot of the time. And so by giving up that sense of superiority, it isn't superior, I am not superior, but I had a sense of superiority. By giving up that sense of superiority and separation, and considering that popularity includes a grain of truth, many grains of truth, and listening for it, looking for it, calmly waiting and allowing myself to participate and feel into the commonality that creates a popularity. I have learned a great deal about popular culture. I have developed a stronger feeling of safety in being part of the human species, part of the human condition, part of my community. I've learned to respect people. And because I have learned to respect people, I have more respect for myself. It comes back at you. So what I'm trying to describe here was a personal journey of saying if millions of people like something, there must be something in it. And taking the time to search for it, not because they're right or wrong, but because there's something there. And basically being able to appreciate other people's taste, other people's culture, other people's likes and dislikes. And being able to, if nothing else, converse based on these common phrases. Maybe this will make it simpler. When I was in 9th and 10th grade, my family was, my father was a military officer and we were transferred to Europe. And so for 2 years, I didn't watch television, basically. And then I came back to the United States. And here I am, a high school junior, and I don't know any of the in jokes. I don't know any of the popular cliches and phrases. So people would repeat something that everybody knew because it had been on television for years, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Now, I am not trying to tell you that commercials are innately valuable to human culture, but commercial jingles that we remember and use as metaphors are lovely little pieces of poetry that have a connection in what everybody watches, and then a connection in how we use them. What I noticed during those high school years is that I missed that connection that comes with just watching a commercial in passing, watching a television program in passing, driving by a billboard. That these are ways we connect with each other. And without this little bit of connection, I felt isolated and alone. So that experience in my high school years, I later translated as an adult to let's participate, let's play, let's find out what everybody's talking about. You don't have to watch it all the time, but participate and take a look. I'm late to the table very often. I sometimes watch a series 5 years after it's been canceled, but it is fun to find out that there was something of value in that cultural experience that I wasn't necessarily interested in at the time. And it gives me more faith in the human condition. It gives me more faith in mankind to find bits and pieces of value everywhere instead of only in the things that I personally enjoy and treasure. So, bit long-winded, little example of finding the grain of truth and how it can change a worldview, can change an entire attitude, looking at these very, very small pieces. So I put the quotes from 19 different lectures on my website under additional concepts because it doesn't fit anywhere. It's not part of an individual lecture called The Grain of Truth. It's you can also search for it in the lectures, in my newsletters and on my website. I show how to Google only the lectures for the phrase grain of truth, so you can bring up only those phrases. It's fun. It's an interesting exercise in learning to see differently. And I encourage you to give it a try. Thanks.